here we are, the last chapter of the Silver Sword. It's taken a while, but we've got through all 29 chapters. First of all, well done on all of your hard work and getting right through to the end. We'll keep this on the timetable for a little while, so if you haven't quite finished, you'll get there as well. Righto, let's go. Chapter 9, The New Beginning. On a bare hillside in the Swiss canton of Appenzell, a village was being built. It was an international children's village, the first of its kind in the world. Before the war, there were only an old farmhouse there, surrounded by fields with flocks of sheep and herds of cows and tinkering bells. Now the first house, with its broad gables and deep eaves, was already up. Others were going up at top speed. Swiss children had collected £30,000 to pay for the work. A great Swiss youth organisation had provided more. Many of the workers gave their help free. Men and boys came from all over Europe. By 1946, Danes, Swedes, Austrians, English, Swiss, Germans and Italians were camping together and working happily side by side. A few months before, some of them had been on opposite armies fighting each other. Now they had joined together to build a village where abandoned and orphaned children could forget the misery of war, where their minds and bodies could be healed and they could learn to live in peace. Here at last they would find a real home, with no fear of being driven out among strangers again. They would be educated in mind, hand and heart. When they grew up, they would be able to meet the future with goodwill and courage. These ideals had made a great appeal to Joseph Bielski, who had been one of the earliest and keenest helpers. In Warsaw, he had been the headmaster of his own school. Now he and his wife were chosen as house father and house mother of the Polish house. Each nation was to have its own house, where 16 orphan children could grow up with a family of house parents. They would be taught in their own language and join the children from other houses for games and social activities. Joseph had his family to help build the house, and it was one of the first to be finished. It had central heating, shower baths, electric fittings in the kitchen, bright living rooms, and beautiful bedrooms. The children had never known such comfort. By the late summer of 1946, they had settled in with 16 orphan children from Poland. The war produced countless tragic stories, few of them which ended as happily as that of the Bielski family. Yet it would be wrong to pretend that life for the Bielskis was at once serene and free of trouble. They had been parted too long and suffered too much. It took time to grow used to life which was so different from anything they had known before. On the whole, it was Bronia was the quickest to settle. She had only been 4 when her mother had been taken away, too young to remember happier days. She had quickly accepted Ruth as her new mother, and through the terrible hardships of war, Ruth had looked after her with wonderful devotion. Restored now to her parents, she grew up a happy and gifted child. Her talent for drawing matured. At first she could only draw the scenes of war and escape which she had lived through. Her pictures were full of soldiers, ruined buildings, open railway trucks and queues outside the soup kitchens. Gradually her subjects changed. Soon they began to reflect her new and far more secure life among the mountains of Switzerland. Edith was not so fortunate. Many of the children admitted to the village showed signs of tuberculosis, but hardship and lack of good food had made Edith much more delicate than most. He had been sent away to a sanatorium, and for the first month or two the doctors despaired for his life. But the will to live was strong in him, and he grew better. After 18 months, he returned to his family. Another 6 months of open-air life in the mountains made him fit enough to go to Zurich and study engineering. He had always wanted to be an engineer. And what of Jan, that charming bundle of good intentions and atrocious deeds? His complete record, as far as it was known, had been sent to the ITS, but nothing came of it, and his parents were never traced. So he became a Bielski. During the war, his mind had suffered more than his body, and minds usually take longer to heal. He did not take easily to the secure and peaceful life. He was excitable and could not concentrate on one thing for long. He liked to play at firing squads and torture, at crossing the frontier secretly, and at smuggling. He was always fighting. Though he had all the food and clothes he needed, he was the biggest thief in the village. He broke into the other houses and raided the larders. It was usually the German house, for he still hated Germans and could not forgive them for what they had done to Poland. Margaret Bliski treated him as lovingly as she did her own children, but he was often rude to her. Ruth was the only person who could manage him, and she remained as devoted to her as ever. She knew that the way to his heart was through animals. She persuaded her father to let him keep rabbits and goats. She took him to neighbouring farms, and soon the farmers found that he could do anything with a sick animal. If a cow was ill or a horse was lame, they found it would be better more quickly if they sent for Jan instead of for the vet. And of course it cost them much less. So in time even Jan grew up, and his bad ways began to drop off him. There were no more raids on larders, and the German children no longer got a shower of rotten apples at their heads whenever they passed the Polish village. Lastly, Ruth. She had all the time been so brave, wise, and unselfish that you might have expected her to present no problem at all. But she had grown up too quickly and shouldered responsibilities far beyond her years. As she wanted to be a teacher, her father lost no time in arranging for her to go away to university to be trained. She refused to go. Her parents and her new home meant so much to her that she could not bring herself to leave them. She behaved like a young child, clinging to her mother and following her about everywhere. It seemed as if she was trying to recover the lost years of her childhood. But this phase didn't last long. Little by little, the magic of her new surroundings worked its spell upon her. In 1947, she went to Zurich University to study for a degree. 4 years later, as a qualified teacher, she married a young Frenchman who came to work in the children's village. When the second French house was built, she and her husband were made house parents. The last time I heard of her, she had 16 French orphans under her care, as well as 2 small girls of her own. As far as I know, she is still there, bringing them up in the spirit of the children's village, giving them all the trust and affection that young people need. And over the way, in the Polish house, in a velvet-lined drawer of her jewel box, Margaret Bliski keeps her proudest possession, the silver sword. So there we have it, the end of the silver sword. Everyone lived happily ever after. So let's get into our last lot of work. Okay, 5 questions to do today, so let's make a good job of those. There's a podium where you have to rank your top 3 characters. Who do you think was the most important character in the story and why? Second most and third most. Don't forget to give reasons, and I would be expecting some examples from the book to back up your reasons. And then your assessment bit of work. I want you to create a dust cover for the silver sword. These will be going on display, so make sure you do a good job of them. Do it nice or do it twice. On the back cover of your dust cover, we normally have a blurb which alludes to what the book is or the novel is a little bit about, to try to hook in readers to read the book. We're going to do that a little bit differently. I want you to make a summary of the novel in your own words, including an illustration. Now these in Panthera 4 will be done by hand, maybe digitally. I'll see how we go. But your summary should have the main events or the main happenings of the story. I'd be expecting at least 2 really good paragraphs of writing for your summary for the Silver Sword. And then a title page and the spine of the novel as well. If you get that finished and you want an extension activity to do, an iMovie trailer advertising the novel, not model, is a really good extension activity for you to do. Okay, well done on all your hard work for the Silver Sword. Let's hope that your last lot of questions, activities done to that great high standard that you've been doing. Well done. I look forward to seeing your final bits of work.